All right. What's up, guys? And welcome back to a brand new episode of the Opinion City Podcast, professional wrestling podcast, where we debate the hottest topics of the past, present, future, and beyond. We are your hosts. My name is Ralph Hind March.
And I am Parma Sean Russell.
And I'm ABJ, baby.
There he is. All right.
This week, let's just get into it. We have the one and only Anthony Blackwell Jr. from the ABJ Podcast. This is basically going to be an Opinion City ABJ Supershow. This is a meeting of the minds, beating of both worlds. ABJ, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. My voice might be a little hoarse. Last night I was at a wrestling show for the first time in a while, and I was a fan, so I was screaming and yelling and talking loud noises. So I had a blast, but I'm doing good, hanging in there. And thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you.
No, thank you for coming on the show today, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to have a fellow podcaster in the room, talking not just wrestling but all things podcasting, which is really cool. And it's interesting. I was telling Sean, so you and I actually sort of were right down the road from each other for a while there, with you being in Frackville and me being in Mount Carmel.
Yeah.
And it seems like being in Frackville, being in Schuylkill County, the Skook there, is a big part of your podcast, and you've got the background and everything. So what would you say is probably the best thing about living in Schuylkill County?
Some of the best things about Schuylkill County are also some of the worst things. When you think of people in Schuylkill County, there's a lot of the perception of it's very close-minded. There's a lot of people who are very set in their ways, very old school. But there also is the same people who you think are the close-minded and old school and don't bother with anybody or don't like outsiders are also the same people. If your car's broke down on the side of the road, you'll have 3 people stop and ask if you're okay and help you out. It's when we love hard, right? So when you find your community in Schuylkill County, it's a great place to be. Just kind of going back, I'll kind of give some love to some Mount Carmel people here. Professional wrestler Tony Deppen has a brewery in downtown Pottsville called Pilgaroo, and you want to talk about a community, that bar is exactly what the heart of Schuylkill County is. I mean, whether it's a folk punk show or a punk rock show or an emo show or it's pro wrestling night or pro wrestling trivia, the community of what a place like that can bring is exactly why I love Schuylkill County. And it's a big part of who I am and shaped me who I am as a person.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. It's definitely a great place. So you're in Frackville, correct?
Oh, now I'm in Monty City. I'm back home.
Now you're in Monty City. All right. So
that's where I was born and raised, essentially. I was originally Shenandoah. Then very young in Shenandoah, we moved then to Monty City, where I pretty much was born and raised, and then I lived in Frackville for a while, but now back in Monty City.
Did you have a favorite place to eat in Frackville?
Anthony's. I really liked Anthony. Not Little Anthony's, but Anthony's on the main drag. That's really high up there for Italian food. But if I have to pick, if I'm going there all the time, the number one place in Frackville, if you want wings, bar environment, is Black Diamond.
Oh,
okay.
I cannot even tell you. I was literally going to say I used to go to Black Diamond all the time for wings.
Black Diamond has been not only an amazing place once again for a community and just feeling welcome and being loved there, but Sherry and Amber have been huge supporters of me in my journey as a content creator and as a human being. And that's awesome. Bar has done so much for me as a person, but also for my content. They're awesome people.
That's fantastic, man.
Speaking of your content, so why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about your journey into the podcasting world, and where did you get the idea for the ABJ podcast?
So I first started off. I was doing. I listened to. I was in a car, and I found the idea of podcasting through. At the time, I was a huge a pro wrestling fan. Then I stopped for a while, and then I became a mixed martial arts fan. And I fell in love with Joe Rogan. I thought his commentary was amazing. I thought of the way, and then when I would commentate wrestling or MMA while being with a group of friends and having huge UFC parties. And the joke was just like Tone Rogan over here, because I would say it right before he would, and that was like the joke. And then I started listening to his podcast, and I was like, man, I really like how he has all sides of the spectrum on, and how he's willing to have a conversation with anybody. And I thought it was really cool. And then another person I'm really inspired by, Kevin Smith. I love all Kevin Smith movies. And I was like, oh, he's a podcaster. So I started getting into that thing. And then I found this program, this app called Story Corps. And Story Corps is essentially, it used to be like a booth that you would like go into, and it would ask you a couple questions, and you would just tell your like a story about yourself. And I was like, man, this is amazing. And some of the stories that were in there, and it was just people on their phones. Like they would just record a story on their phone. And some of those stories were so powerful and so inspiring. And so like, man, if these people can go through their situations and come out the other end, that's inspiring to me. So I was like, I want to capture that. I'm someone who, School County, you walk into a bar, you get a beer, you never met somebody before in your life. You just start talking. I'm a talker, so I'll just talk to a random stranger, and you're there for 45 minutes to an hour, and you learn about this guy's life story, and you're thinking like, that could be a movie. Like that person went through some stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it kind of got to a point where I was like, man, we're so encapsulated with like the Kardashians and rich people and famous people, but we're so quick to judge our neighbor because we think they're a jerk or we think they're a bad person, but they've been through some stuff. And if you just sit and talk and listen, regardless of their religion, politics, or sexual orientation, race, whatever it may be that divides us as people, poverty levels, you know what I mean, or class levels, we're all looking for the same thing. And I just love those people stories and those personal journals. So I started interviews with everyday people. And then I sold, I had the idea for interviews with everyday people, and I sold all of my stuff, like all of my collectibles, everything I've ever owned that was valuable. I sold it all, pop vinyls, everything. And I bought my equipment to start the podcast. And I got that idea from Kevin Smith. He wanted to make Clerks. He sold all of his comic books, made his movie. He chased his dreams. I did the same thing. And then I had all this equipment, and I was like, well, I have all this stuff. Like, should I do more podcasts? I want to get back into pro wrestling. So the podcast kind of started my wrestling journey, got some friends in, started talking wrestling, start doing beer stuff, paranormal, pop culture. We had all these different podcasts. And then
many hats.
Yeah, I started this network, and then it was too much to run 5 or 6 podcasts at one time, and all the social medias, and then your Facebooks, your Twitters, your Instagrams for 5 different shows. So that's 15 to 20 posts a day, daily. So I kind of consolidated everything back in October of last year to the ABJ podcast, which is kind of just encompassing of everything and everything I'm into, but also using my name as the brand. So instead, like when I meet someone, I'm like, just search my name, you'll find my content, and being like, check out this name of this. You know, it was harder to kind of do that. So yeah, I started this. Then it's a lot of pro wrestling interviews, but I am open to talk to anybody about anything.
Right.
So, your podcast description says that you sit down with amazing people and learn about them. So, you kind of started off open to everything. And it seems like more recently, you've really kind of been focusing in on a lot of the wrestling content.
Right.
But are you looking to really kind of continue with the wrestling comment or content? Are you looking for other types of content? I know very early on you had like some people movie content and things like that. But what are you really looking to do from here on out? Are you just pretty much open to everything?
I'm open to everything, but I will say, to stay loyal to who I am right now, what I've been doing, I'm going to be a lot of independent wrestling and a lot of wrestling. I just think that industry in that field is so much deeper than what people see on TV. When you learn about the people backstage and you learn how much they put themselves through, and like an 8-minute match is like 4 car accidents sometimes on some of their bodies, and they're doing it for pennies on the dollar, and it's just, and a lot of that comes down to trying to teach people, and it doesn't matter what field or what industry people are in, support and the love of the people who are into this industry is so pivotal and crucial to their growth and to their income and to their livelihood. And then you go on the internet wrestling community, and people are arguing about pro wrestling of who had more numbers at a TV show. It's like, who cares? Look at both those numbers, put them together, and be like, our industry's thriving. Why are we taking it backwards by comparing the two? It doesn't make sense to me, because you just boil it down to an independent level, and it's like these people are chasing their dreams. We talked earlier on the podcast. You guys are both Chikara fans. Like, you guys started 5 years ago going to Chikara shows and supporting that, and it sucks the way it ended. But you look at TV now, and those people were wrestling in front of 20, 30 people.
Yeah.
And now they're selling out Wembley Stadium. Like, that's sick.
It's
like
nuts.
It's nuts to hear that journey. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people who've been trained by those people are now the people that we support on the independent scene. And you're looking at, you're like, yo, in 10 years, they're going to be the ones on TV. Like, and I can't wait.
Exactly.
We're lucky enough to have their stories now because it's only a matter of time before they get there because how hard they work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm open to kind of circle back. I'm open to anything. I love independent movies. I love independent music. I love anything. If you have a cool story, man, you've been through something that you think somebody can benefit from, I want to hear your story.
That's
awesome. Really cool.
Yeah.
So what's one thing your wrestling podcast adventure did for you that you didn't really expect?
Pro wrestling commentary, pro wrestling production, helping with booking, helping show agent, helping backstage agent. I didn't think any of that was a thing as a pro wrestling fan growing up.
Right.
I thought, man, I just really like this. And then I started the podcast just to kind of start talking about pro wrestling. And it all happened so quick. Like, I had an independent wrestler himself on, Andy Header, great guy. He came on and we started talking, and then he's like, yo, you should come to shows that I'm at. And I would just kind of went in as a fan. And then me and BP would just like bring our Zoom 8.6 in the car, and on the way home, we'd put a mic on me and a mic on him, and we would drive home and talk about the show. And we'd be like, man, here's how we would do it, like, because we would fantasy book it, not to discredit what they were doing, but to kind of like, man, what if they did this? What if they did that?
Yeah.
And then sometimes we were kind of bearing the lead because we were, I guess, smarter fans. So we were seeing what was happening before it happened, or they were listening and taking our ideas. But it turned into like, hey, you're going to do backstage interviews here, or hey, you're going to jump on commentary. Hey, you're going to come and host a convention in Toms River, New Jersey, and get to hang out with Sting and Nick Aldis and Matt Cardona.
I was there for that one. I was there last year.
Yeah, and it's just like, what is going on here? Like, I would have never thought that this journey would have gotten me in these positions to see the business for more than just watching it on TV and meeting them. Like, I'm at a convention and I'm meeting Jimmy Hart. Like I don't know. It's I will never lose that fandom side of things. I think that's what makes me special in this business when it comes to me as a commentator or me as a content creator. It's just don't lose that fan side of things, you know. And but also don't be a giant stupid mark. You know, everyone's a mark, but some people turn up to 13 and take the handle off. You know what I mean?
So you hit on a couple really interesting things there. And when you talk about like the world of indie wrestling, you brought up some names: Tony Depp and Andy Header. You know, these are like really, really good people. I've known both of them for a long time, and you know, just really good people that you know, are just so talented at what they do. And you know, it's like you're just waiting for them to hit that next level. You're waiting for somebody, you know, to finally take notice and say, hey, look what these guys are doing. And that's really what like the world of independent wrestling is all about. Just that wonder of, you know, seeing people and being like, hey, it's, you know, it's only a matter of time till these guys hit the big time. So it's a really incredible feeling, you know, being able to see that and know that, you know, there's talent coming up that you're just watching now.
So I mean, another good example of the shirt I'm wearing, Ace Austin. We watched Ace Austin wrestle in fire halls, and now this dude's in the Bullet Club. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
it's crazy.
It's so awesome to watch people who you've loved and been supporting at such a low level on the independent scene. Like, have we said before, like Orange Cassidy. I mean, at some level was a guy who was wrestling for nobody under a mask, and now he's the number one merch seller in all professional wrestling, and he's killing, like, you know what I mean? It's like Eddie Kingston like should be in jail, like, and now he's making millions of dollars in the industry he loves. You know what I mean? Like, it's, and I don't mean that disrespectfully to Eddie Kingston, but he'd say the same thing himself. Like, this has been a blessing for him. It's just cool to see people come up from nothing and now they're taking over the world. It's just fun.
It's you mentioned about you know, still having that fandom and still being a fan. It's crazy because, you know, you talked about like Sting and Nick Aldis and like these big names, and I mean, we were at Steel Stacks, and I can just remember like waiting to go up to people and talk to them, like, you know,
great show,
Wheeler Yuta and like all these different people, you know, and you're just like, you know, holy crap, I can't believe, like, you still feel it inside even when you see, you know,
butterflies, man,
people that are just like us, you know what I mean? Like people that are just out there living their dream, doing their thing, and you still, I don't think that ever goes away. That feeling that that excitement.
The coolest one that just recently happened for me is I went over to London for AEW's pay-per-view, and I was there for like a week, and never been out of the country like that. It was scary, it was terrifying, and I go to Camden to go see Progress and Defy, and I was comped some tickets. Thank you, Justin. So I get to the show, and I'm like, oh, who's wrestling? I don't know the card. I know nothing about it. I just kind of walked in blank. And they're like, oh, this match is coming up. I kind of missed up the beginning of Defy. So I kind of came in halfway through because I didn't know I was welcome to the Defy show. I thought I was only going to be good for Progress. But they let me in for both. And as I'm coming in, Nick Wayne is wrestling Casey Navarro. Now, Casey's someone who I've been watching for 2.5 years all over the Northeast PA.
Sure.
And now I'm in a different country. And so is he. And he's doing his art against the biggest guy, like just signed to AEW, Nick Wayne, and they're killing it. They're tearing it apart. And then I'm in the merch line. I sneak into Casey's merch line, and he's trying to, like, someone gives him change, and he's trying to figure out his currency, and he's trying to like process it in his head. And I just yell, "Stupid!" Like, can I curse? Is that cool?
Yeah,
why not?
I was like, it's not a bad one, but I was like, no, stupid ass American can't figure out this currency.
Yeah.
And he hears my voice, and he looks up, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" I'm like, "We're in London, baby." It's just cool, so man. Cool. Like, it's fun to watch. Like I said, it's just watch your friends succeed.
So, why don't you tell us about your AEW trip? How did that come about?
So I started a Discord community, probably a few months into the start of the rebranding of my content, ABJ Podcast, and I was just joining other people's streams and meeting people and just building this community. And I met these amazing Australians in my life, Raz and Anastasia, and I was going through a lot of my personal life, and they were just like, "Man, have you ever left the country?" I was like, "I'm American, man. We don't have vacations. Like, what are you talking about?" Like, and
right. What's a vacation?
Holidays? What's that?
Exactly.
Yeah. I like, you know how you called holiday and you're away for a week? Like, we have like a weekend where we get 3 days off, and that's our vacation. Like, we go to the Jersey Shore for 3 days and then come home. That's a vacation in America.
Exactly.
And they heard that, and they're just like, "Nah, we're gonna change that. Here's a plane ticket, and here meet me in London, and we're gonna have a place to stay, and we're gonna hang out." And I just met this person who we met through content, and just been like a secondary family to me across the world, of using the internet in a powerful way, and met this dude who's like my brother now in another country, and we got to have an experience of seeing one of the coolest wrestling shows of all time. And that's kind of how it all came about. It was a gift, and they were super sweet about it, and it was a memory I'll never forget.
Wow.
That's really good.
Yeah, so let's stay on All In for a little bit, because I mean, it's incredible that here, this dude from Central Pennsylvania is over there chilling out at the biggest wrestling show that we'll probably ever see in our lifetime.
There's so many Keystone stickers stuck all over that city.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so awesome.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah, there's an ABJ sticker on the London Bridge. I'm just saying right now. I don't know how long it'll be there.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so we got the story of how you got over there. So what was one moment on that show where you were just like, this is the moment that I know I need to see this show. This is the moment that, like, I can't believe I'm going to be there live for. Like, what was that one moment from the show where you were just like, this is it?
There was 3. So Joe and Punk was high for me, and that match did not disappoint.
Great match.
The storytelling they did of how they showed their journey through ROH with their moveset, and then they did their moveset from WWE with some shots at WWE in that match, and then tying it into their AEW spin, and then kind of using the crowd of the hatred of Punk because he's anti-elite, and like, it was just a really good storytelling match. So that was very high on my list. There was matches that surprised me. Jericho Ospreay. I'm a Jericho fan, but I know what Jericho is in his career, and some of his matches just don't do it for me. And everyone talks about Will Ospreay being the greatest wrestler in the world, and I put him high on that list, but I was like, I don't know if he's the greatest wrestler on the world. and then seeing Will Ospreay live, he is 100% the best wrestler in the world right now. He made Jericho look like he was 18 years old again. It was a banger, and just to hear
a really good match,
just to hear the crowd really get behind him was cool. Seeing Sting live wrestle, never seen that before. That was fun. The stadium stampede. Is that what they call the stadium stampede?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Once again, you're watching Claudio. You're watching Chikara wrestle in Wembley, and just like to hear the crowd erupt for Orange and hear the crowd erupt for Kingston. They come back through blood and just like
nuts. I'm sure.
As a Northeast wrestling fan, that match was special. You know what I mean? Because that's everyone we've been either we're connected to via who's wrestling now, and that's who trained them, and that's who gave them their lineage of where they are now. So that match was super special. And then the main event. I'm a giant Adam Cole mark. I like MJF. He has really won me over as a talent in this company, in this business. He's proven to be something special. MJF as a locker room leader, as a character, they invoke so much emotion in that match. It was so well done, and how they open the show and how they close the show, and then just being that bookends of the show. It was. I don't think I've ever experienced a wrestling match like that in my life. Just the way they drew the feelings out of everybody. It was really special. It was a overall very Saraya winning was dope. I would have loved to see Adam Cole walk out of Wembley with the world champ. We didn't get that, but overall, just it was magical. But I was mostly Adam Cole, and MJF was the special one for me.
So, what was the best thing and what was the worst thing about being in London?
The worst things are just so petty. So when I say worse, I don't think like worse is like they were a deal breaker. But crossing the street is different in London because you're trained in America to look right and then look left. You will die doing that over there because the traffic comes in a different direction. So I almost got hit by a car twice a day, every day there. That was fun. Ordering on the menu was weird there because I'm uncultured American, so I go and I order a burger, which, by the way, everything on a burger bun in the UK, or I guess everywhere in the world except America, could be anything. If it's on a burger bun, it's a burger. Whether it's beef, chicken, fish, it's a burger. I hate that. That's not the same thing.
No.
So don't like that at all. So I order a burger, and I got burger and chips. So in America, it's not uncommon to get potato chips with your meal, right? That's like a bar food staple,
right?
And they sent out fries, and I was like, "Yo, they messed up, but that's dope. I got extra food." And they're like, "No, chips or fries here." I'm like, what?"
I was like, chips, meat, fries over there. Yeah,
I was like, I thought I got hooked up, you know?
Yeah.
That was different. Just hearing people, like, we were in London, so London's like UK's New York, so everyone from every culture is there. I love that. And as soon as they hear I had an American accent, it was just like, can we talk to you about your country? I was like, yeah, can I talk to you about yours? And just like learning from each other was magical. Seeing other wrestling fans in London, like you'd walk down the street and see someone in the shirt and you're just like, man, that was cool.
Exactly.
It was just, man, I'm a huge Beatles fan, so I got to see a bunch of Beatles stuff. I got to go to Abbey Road. I got to go to the rooftop where they did their last concert. It's just, I don't know. I just feel like I should have been in London. I want to live there. I'm being honest. Like, I love their music. I love the culture there. I love everything about it. I would go back tomorrow if I had the money. So if anyone would like to send ABJ back to London,
there you go. Here's your advertisement.
Yeah. Well,
sign up for the Patreon. Send ABJ to London.
Well, listen, and on top of that, now you can add possibly another historic moment. You might have seen Punk's last wrestling match if things don't work out.
I think he'll be back. I don't think it was his last match. It's definitely his last match in AEW, but I think he'll be back.
Yeah.
I think it's 100% he comes back.
Somewhere. Yeah. I don't.
WWE. TKO loves CM Punk. Dana White loves CM Punk. They are employing CM Punk for commentary on the MMA side. It is no longer a McMahon run company. CM Punk will be back.
All right. I get that. I mean, everybody's got their opinions.
Like one of my coworkers says, I'll see it when I believe it.
Yeah. I think you'll see it. I think you'll see it sooner than later.
All right. Well, listen, are you willing to guarantee that?
Yeah.
Are you willing to make a bet here on the Opinion City podcast?
Yeah,
I will make a bet. You will see CM Punk back.
Because every time we guarantee something on this show, it doesn't happen. I just want you to know. So
it will. I will. I'm pretty good at my
Okay.
reads. I feel like that will definitely happen.
Yeah. So you mentioned seeing fans from all over in London. There, did you see a lot of other people from the U.S. and did you get to talk to people from a lot of different countries?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did meet a lot of United States people, a lot of Australians. It was crazy. Like it seemed like every person we met was an Australian or American, which was nuts. Because him being from Australia, maybe from America, that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think. Yeah, a lot of different. I had a friend who was from where I'm from. Actually, he's from the Mount Carmel area as well, and he moved to London. And he's been there for a while.
Oh wow!
And it was so I got to reconvene with him, and he was at Wembley, so that was cool to meet him up. James, check out his podcast, Addictively Speaking. He's recovering, and he likes it. He talks about addiction and stuff like that. Really good guy. But that was cool. One more thing, I just not wrestling related. That was like my favorite thing. And I'm not a Philadelphia sports guy. I respect Philadelphia sports. I think they're they are the most fun fans in
this year. You need to respect them.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I hate baseball. But watch Philly's home games on. Yeah, we got to go check that out.
It is fun.
So there's a tunnel in London. It's an old abandoned subway tunnel, and I guess the rumor or the story is that Banksy bought this tunnel and turned it into a public art space, and it's protected. And anyone can go in this tunnel and perform art. They can spray paint the walls. They can tag it. They can do whatever they want. You go in, you take a picture. Cops walk in. There's 8-year-olds spray painting the wall. You know what I mean? And cops just make sure everyone's safe because it is a tunnel. It can be sketchy. There's not, you know what I mean? But they police it and everything's safe. And people go in there and put these beautiful murals up. And then the next day you come back and it can be a completely different tunnel because it's just constantly changing. There's no rules. Like the rule is essentially you paint, you take your photos, and you can come back the next day and your stuff's painted over.
Yeah.
The whole tunnel smells like paint. It's crazy. But you halfway through the tunnel, my friend from PA was like, yo, you have to come experience this. So halfway through the tunnel is a Philly sports bar. It's like you are walking into Pennsylvania while you're in London. You get a Philly cheesesteak. You can get a pizza steak. Like it's all Philly themed. There's Delco flags on the wall.
Oh, that's amazing.
Jason Kelsey's Mummers outfit is in there. There's a giant Nick Foles mural on the wall. Yeah. It is like walking into Pennsylvania. Like
that's crazy.
Every dive bar in Pennsylvania has dollar walls where everyone puts $1 for good luck. There's dollars, American dollars, all over the walls. I was like, it felt like being at home. It was so dope. It was like my favorite part of being there. Yeah,
that's really cool. All right, getting back to your podcast a little bit, I want to know, in your opinion, what makes the ABJ podcast stand out from other wrestling podcasts?
I feel like I build a genuine connection with my guest. I feel like it's not just a fan talking to a wrestler. I think it's two people who I feel like I get them to lower their inhibitions a little bit. I feel like I get them to be more comfortable. I feel it's more of a conversation than an interview. And I feel like I can adapt. Like I have some questions that I have baseline, and I've learned how to read my guests and gauge their comfortability and where they are mentally in the interview. And I can steer the conversation based on what they're giving back to me. So I feel like I'm a pretty decent interview, and I'm getting better every time because I study other people who do interviews, like how we talked about before, Kevin, Joe Rogan. I grew up as a Howard Stern fan. I'm 13 years old listening to Howard Stern. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm a good conversationalist. I feel like I'm a good just interview. And like I said, I get to really pick their brains and get to know them a lot at shows, and I translate that over to a friendship that you're seeing two people just talk. Like Chris Van Vliet, he interviews people. Renee Paquette interviews people, and it feels like two friends in a room having a conversation that you get to listen in on.
Exactly.
And I try to replicate that.
Right.
That's awesome.
No, that's really cool. Yeah.
So before we move on to some other content here, one last question about your podcast. So what has been your biggest challenge when it comes to making your own podcast and doing all of this, and how have you overcome that challenge?
The biggest challenge has just been financially and chasing this dream, but also like I said to myself, I don't want to be a 9-to-5 guy anymore, and I'm going back to being a 9-to-5 guy. I'm someone who his entire life lived comfortably of like punching a time clock and working 12 hours and beating my body up. I was diagnosed at a young age with a joint disorder. So as I keep getting older, it's just harder to do that style of work. I'm not educated. I live in Pennsylvania. So you just got to kill yourself to make a living. And when I say kill yourself, I mean your body and mentally. It's just that blue collar style lifestyle. And I always felt like, I'm not trying to sound egotistical or anything, but I always felt like there's more to me than that. And I wanted to prove it. And I wanted to chase this dream of being a content creator or a commentator or whatever it may be. Yeah. So the biggest challenge was just really dedicating my life to it and sacrificing time away from friends and family and losing friendships and losing relationships for this. And that's been the hardest challenge. And that's the biggest thing I'm probably going through right now, of just like being stripped down to nothing and then starting back over. Yeah.
Yeah. That's gotta be a tough pill to swallow, going from like the whole network down to just, hey, now we're the podcast.
Yep. Yeah. Tough. Very, very hard.
But you're still killing it, man. I see the view, your views are crazy. You're doing very well for someone who's going through a lot. Like you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it, but Yeah,
it's hard to, and staying true to yourself is tough, right? So like there's a lot of content creators who are like, I want to get this person because they've been on TV, and my goal from the beginning is if I can get those names, I will. If talking about mainstream wrestling isn't something I wanted to do, I love it, but I want it to be centric on just independent wrestling. But it's hard to grow when all you talk about is the indie scene, because not everybody cares or is even aware of the indie scene. Yeah. So the fact that I'm being charted and I'm being ranked and I'm just talking to independent wrestlers is a huge accomplishment to me, because it's not easy to break into a wrestling market when all you're talking about is independent wrestling. You have to kind of make content you don't want to make to get ahead. And it's tough to stay true to yourself in that aspect.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, some of the stuff you say, because I feel like you and I have kind of almost gone down the same path, because like, financially and everything, I'm in the same boat you are. I mean, I don't want to be working 9 to 5. I'm hoping not to have to be working 9 to 5 soon. It's just not. And you think about all the things you want to do. You think about all the things you can do, and all the stuff that you can put out there, and the value that you have as a content creator. And it is hard sometimes, because you try to balance what you want to do and what you have to do. When I came up with the idea for all of this, I mean, I have been in my journey, I have been a lot of places and done a lot of things. I mean, I've met like 450 different wrestlers over the years, just going different places. And like the indie stuff is where I really kind of made my stride, because I didn't just, going to Chikara, you don't just go to Chikara.
No,
you become a part of a family there. Like you meet these people, you get to know these people, you become friends with these people. I mean, we've had Razorhawk on the show, we've had Ultimo Ant on the show, and
awesome people.
I'm great friends with both of them.
Great
like
people,
I see them out places, and we stop and talk and catch up, and it's just, I mean, that's the big difference, I think, between the indie world and the content that we have to do, that we have to get our names out there. But you and I are on very similar paths, but you've definitely been killing it.
Appreciate that.
The podcast is very well received, I know.
Absolutely.
A lot of people out there really enjoy it. So it's great to take a moment and just celebrate that, because you have been really killing it.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah. And what you're describing of like that environment of a Chikara, I mean, realistically, I don't want to take away that experience from Chikara or say it's not special, because it 100% is, but a good wrestling promotion, that's what you want. Like you want your fan. Like, some wrestling promotions look at their fans as just ticket buyers, and then then there's wrestling promotions who look at their fans as an extended family. Sure, like they are buying tickets, and sometimes they get caught up in a thing where it's like, well, they're my buddies, I'm gonna let them in for free, and then they start losing money, and then people aren't getting paid, and then people go away. So it is a business at the end of the day, but if a good promotion can balance, we're a business, but also let's give our fans that experience of this is a family. Like it's awesome to walk into a promotion and you see fans getting to their seats and they get seats with each other because that's their experience of meeting their friend, because they only get to see each other once a month at these shows. Right. And then the fans are out there hugging each other and receiving each other. And then the talent comes out from the back, and they, whether they're a good guy or a bad guy, they're like, they have their groups of fans and they go and support them and they love them. Like, that's that's the mark of a good independent wrestling promotion, and that's what makes it so special. There's so many layers to a wrestling show, and this is why I try to encapsulate it in my podcast, like that what we're talking about there from a fan experience. And then you go behind the curtain, and it's the same thing from the boys and the girls. Like, hey, I haven't seen you in a month. Like, how you been? Like, hey, I seen you on social media. You had this great match last week. I love that. Yeah. And then you watch someone. I'm gonna kind of blow up their spot a little bit, but like the Mecca Brian Johnson. Like, I was so excited because I haven't been in a show in forever, and he comes walking in the building. I'm like, yo, what's up, man? And I wanted to give him a high five, and he just head down and blew me off. he's in character. He doesn't do that in front of people. You know what I mean? Now you go to the back. He's like, yo, I'm so. I'm like, no. That's my bad. That's my bad. Like, because because that when you see someone adapt into their personality and their character, and then like you watch them like, oh my god, we like, you guys just killed that, like watching from Gorilla, and then their music hits and they transform right before the curtain. Yeah, it's crazy. They hit that curtain, and then they become who they are, and then they come back through the curtain, sometimes crawling. And they're crawling, and then the curtain closed behind them, and they stand up, and they're like, "Was it a good match?" Like they become so humble. They're like a kid. Like, did I do good? Like, and you're like, you just killed it. Like those, like, there's so many different layers to that onion of independent wrestling or art in general, like a musician or anything. It's just it's so goddamn special, and I wish more people can experience that. And if I can kind of tell that story or kind of bring that up to like, because I think that's what makes it special, man. Like, you can love a professional wrestler, right? So we grew up with our Hogans and our Ultimate Warriors and our Ric Flairs, and then you're like, they did this on an airplane, or Ultimate Warrior didn't like these types of people, and you're like, that sucks. You know what I mean? Like, and they're millionaires who are not great people in certain aspects. Yeah, and then you see someone in the independent scene who's just genuinely a good human, and they're just doing everything they can to chase that dream. And the same thing we talked about, where you lose friendships and you lose families, and you don't go to a birthday party or your best friend's wedding because you're locked into your art and your bookings, and they miss everything. And they're doing it for $40, and the hope they sell 2 t-shirts at a show so they get gas money. It's just it's beautiful. And then, like, kind of to tie it back, and then those people are showcasing Wembley Stadium 10 years later. Like, I'm probably repeating myself a lot, but it's just I'm trying to encapsulate how big it is. It's bigger than us. You know what I mean? And if we can use our platforms and our dreams to become journalists and broadcasters, but then also to build an audience for us, but then to be like, we love Razorhawk, we love Ultimo Ant, and you should too, and this is why. And then you nail a good interview, and people are like, man, I like Miley Cyrus. I grew up at the same time as her. I'm like, I don't care about Molly, whatever her name was. Like, that's not Disney, Nickelodeon, whatever she's on. That's stupid. Right. And then she's on Howard Stern, and he pulls out an interview from her and makes her humanized again. She's not a billionaire. She's not a millionaire. Right. She's making art, and her art got to that level where she now is a millionaire and a billionaire, and she has the same struggles as us and the same thing. And Howard Stern, as an interviewer, can make you feel that. And now I'm the biggest Miley Cyrus fan in the world. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you should be doing as a journalist. It shouldn't be about you. It should be about making your guests seem exactly who they are. Don't blow them up into be something they're not. Make them special of who they are as a person. And here's the thing. A lot of people in the independent scene are so goddamn humble that they don't want to be shown in that light. But your job as a journalist is to do it, so you can fall in love with them the same way we do when we see them. How you're saying, we go to a show and like, man, I love that guy. He's so good. How can I encapsulate that so when someone listens to this, they throw their money at them and they can be the next big thing? And that's the beautiful thing about making this type of art.
Yeah. You couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Let's get into some wrestling. I've been wanting to ask somebody this question that's on the show, and I feel like you would be the perfect candidate to ask this question. I want to get your opinion on this. In your opinion, What is your favorite era of wrestling? The Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era, or as they call it, the Reality Era?
Ooh, it's tough. All right, so growing up, I thought the Attitude Era was cool, right? I didn't watch Ruthless Aggression. I was checked out at that point. I was full MMA at that point. Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz stole my heart, and I was UFC ever since. Nice. And it may sound corny and it may sound stupid, but like I went back and I watched the Golden Age. I watched the Macho Mans, and I love that era. The Attitude Era was amazing. I think we need to look at today's era and really, instead of just taking it for granted of what we have, the athletes that are wrestling in today's era right now are light years better than what we see now. I think we have too many people from the older generations telling the new generations of why their era isn't good because they don't do it like they do. It's two different eras. Yeah. The Attitude Era was just as much not received well by the people who were there before them. You know what I mean? Like, stop tearing down this era right now because, and I'm not trying to be mean, but like because of the Jim Cornettes and the Bully Rays telling you it's not cool. But every time Bully Ray takes a booking, he runs right back to this era, but he'll go on a radio show and say, I hate everything that's happening right now. It's like, stop that. Like, stop listening to that. Like, their opinions, they can have their opinions. They're legends. Jim Cornette is the greatest wrestling historian in the business and of all time. And his opinions are valid. But also, just because he doesn't like something doesn't mean you can't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I love today's era of wrestling. I love the fact that we have a modern day WCW, AEW within that aspect. I love the fact that we have a WWE. I love the fact that our ECW over the world right now is GCW, and how we have the MLWs out there. Like NWA is still a thing. The independent scene is huge. I can go and subscribe to Pro Wrestling Premier Network and watch independent wrestling, Fight TV and watch independent wrestling. I can watch IWTV and check out wrestling. Like this era of wrestling is so awesome. And the fact that we can tweet and meet independent people and talk to them, like, I love it. I think today's wrestling is better now than it's ever been in the entire history of the company. And that's not talking numbers. That's not talking about money made. That's not talking about kayfabe. I just think right now is my favorite era.
Right.
I think that's really interesting. A couple things you said there. One, people taking the era for granted. I think that's something as wrestling fans that we have a tendency to do, is that we look at what we've got currently, no matter what era you may have been a part of, and we look at that and we take that for granted. And it's only years later where we start to get this sort of nostalgic, I can't believe that I wasn't more in the moment in what we had back then. And I think a lot of that is why people clash sometimes. But the modern era that we are living in, I don't think we've ever lived in a time before where we could have an entire week where there was possibly brand new content every single day of the week. We've never lived in a time like that.
Entire week of wrestling between Raw, NXT, SmackDown, Impact, AEW. There's literally from Monday through Saturday and every other Sunday, there is wrestling to watch.
New Japan, strong New Japan America. It's Stardom's blowing up.
Just the explosion of wrestling on the internet. Just the explosion of,
we now have access to that we never had before is just absolutely crazy.
If you'd have ever mentioned to anybody that there could have been a streaming network online that just covers wrestling 24 hours a day, like you would never have imagined such a thing. And here we are as jaded wrestling fans living in that era.
And it's crazy incredible. Too, man. Like you watch weekly television, right? And for me, like some of the weekly stuff is tough to watch. More on the WWE,
thank you.
More on the WWE side is because, like, I feel like WWE right now, and I'm not shitting on one company, but I feel like WWE right now is kind of in a point where, like, why do I need to watch your weekly television? Because then when I get to a pay-per-view, it's a 3-hour pay-per-view, but an hour of your pay-per-view is recapping everything for the entire, like. I don't need to watch it anymore. Like I loved NXT Black and Gold, but like I didn't need to watch because most of the pay-per-view would catch me up, and it was too much promo, too much recap. But it's like people watch an angle happen, right? And they're like, hate this angle, it's terrible, bad booking, you just squashed this character, and then 6 months later they're like, that was the greatest thing ever. And just Bryan Danielson when he went on a losing streak for a whole year when he came back from his injury, and everyone's like, he came back and they're not utilizing him. It's like, You gotta lose to win.
Yeah.
They're making you feel something. That's the beauty of this industry.
Yeah.
I think more people need to realize that weekly wrestling is not a sport. I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you. You're not allowed to say the F word. It's fake. It's fake. It's fake. What they go through is real, 100%. What they put their body through is 100% real.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is fake. This is not a sport. When people stop looking at professional wrestling as a sport, people will appreciate it more for being entertainment and being art. Yeah. So when you don't like something that week, let it time to simmer. Give it time to develop. They have a whole month to work that angle. They need to start somewhere. Stop tearing it down week 1. No one liked the New Day at first.
Yeah.
Now they're the longest reigning tag team trios in the history of wrestling.
Yep.
Let it cook. Let the artist be art. Like, just because it's not your art doesn't mean it's not good art.
Exactly. Right.
The biggest thing, I call it the WandaVision effect. Remember when everyone every week was fantasy booking WandaVision and thought they knew all the answers?
Yeah.
And everybody ran to TikTok and they're like, well, in this comic, they said that this is this and this, so they're going to do this. And like, no, they're going to make their own version. And they're going to do what they want to do. And then when they finally got an ending, which if you removed yourself from the internet wrestling, the internet community of everybody fantasy booking and just watch the show for what it was, you're like, that was a great show. Yeah. Probably to this day, one of the best things Disney put out in terms of Marvel on a television show. But if you sucked yourself into thinking that your opinions of how it should have been, you hated the ending. You know what I mean? Because you overbooked it and didn't think it was what it should have been. It's just, I don't know. Wrestling gets that thing too. It's called, I like to call it the WandaVision effect. It's like, I think it should have been this, and it's just like, no, it's not your toy. Wrestling promotions is their sandbox and their toys and their money, and they're gonna book it the way they want, and either like it or don't like it, or find something else in the show you do like.
Yeah, it seems like, at least with mainstream wrestling, that as much of a boom period as we're in now, doesn't seem to be grabbing our attention as much as like the wrestling on the independent scene, and I'm curious, why do you think that is? What's the main difference between indie wrestling versus mainstream wrestling?
I think people, I hate the term clout chase, but I think people immediately attach themselves to the top and say, this is the best because we're told it's the best because it's the most money invested into something, and they have the better production and the better lights and the better sound. But we go to an independent show and say, yo, I got to go talk to them. That was cool. Like maybe it didn't have a light show or they're wrestling in a gymnasium, but that feel of family, that feel of the promotion caring about your interests and the talent caring about you, that's what makes it special to us. And then and how we talked about earlier, when we get to watch that person who wrestled in front of 3 people are now on TV. Now we want to support the mainstream media more because of they gave our boy a shot. Yeah. And I wish more people would go back and say, like, I had an argument not too long ago about the Nick Wayne situation. Like, he's 18, he doesn't deserve what he has. I'm like, Nick Wayne's been doing this since he's 13. He has more in-ring time than some professional wrestlers do 10 years into their career at 18. And I say to them, like, you don't like Nick Wayne now, but Nick Wayne is your next Tyler Black, who became Seth Rollins, who's ranked #1 in the world as a professional wrestler. Absolutely. He was backyarded. He was traveling at 13 years old and booking shows in people's backyards and grinding. And now here he is now. Like, I wish more people would break that mainstream stuff down and see where they came from first, and then be like, yo, I have an independent show this weekend. It's okay. If you don't see the live wrestling show on pay-per-view, it's still going to be there. It's on every major streaming network. Yeah. Take your Saturday off and go watch an independent show and just get that vibe. I guarantee you'll have a good time.
That's exactly what we say here on Opinion City, is that with most indie wrestling, it's just a vibe. Like, I went to my first LVAC show. It was the Dio Stacks 2 show with Ralph, and that's what it was. It was just a vibe. Yep. Everyone, it was like
it's so different.
It was like everybody knew everybody already, and we just met, and everyone's like, they want to talk to you, they want to see you, they want to meet you and greet you. It was just really, it was a whole experience other than just going to a wrestling show. Like, at one point during the show, and I don't mean to gloat or gush, but this was just my moment. Delirious takes my hat, grabs it off my head, and then wrestles in the ring with it, and then throws it back out to me. I'm like, that's just that. That's cool. That's just how
my favorite LVAC moment is Avery Good's last match, and we're front row. And we only picked the one side of front row so we can be a barrier for the cameraman that we're friends with that works for IWTV.
Oh, nice.
So we were kind of like helping him and with his cable while we're actually watching the show, because we're production guys who are trying to be fans but can't get our mind out of helping the production team.
Exactly.
But Kerry Silken, who I became friends with, who's the former owner of ROH and loves, and all those people at LVAC he's big fans of, and he's a big cheeseburger guy. So the former owner of ROH, who just weeks before sold it to Tony Khan, is front row at an independent show taking photos as a proud papa of CB in the ring wrestling. I'm like, I love this. This is so pure.
Yeah, Kerry was at both Steel Stack shows. He's a big LVAC fan.
Yeah,
he just loves to come and hang out.
He's a great guy.
Drew Gulak was there last year, and he just was hanging out, talking to the boys. Like it's insane. I remember, and we talk about like the vibe and people feeling like family. I can remember one year at King of Trios, I was standing in line outside waiting to get in, and this dude in line behind me says, is this your have you been to these shows before? And I'm like, well, yeah, I've been to quite a few of these. And he's like, this is my first show, he said, but I had to come and see my buddy wrestle. And I said, your buddy? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I'm good friends with Dasher Hatfield. He's like, we grew up together, and like, we live down the road. And he's like, you have to come see me wrestle. So I came to see him wrestle. So a few minutes go by, and this woman comes up and she starts talking to him, and they get in this conversation, and she walks away, and he turns to me. He's like, yeah, that was Dasher's mom. Like, just randomly, like, moments like that. But that's like,
awesome.
Everybody just feels like a family. And the LVAC, honestly, I mean, that's the closest thing to Chikara I think I've ever felt.
Yeah.
They are just
for real
killing it as far as just that.
Check out High Tension, HCW. High tension shows, because a lot of that is the new generation of Chikara who moved over to there, and they bring a lot of that vibe.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah. There are just so many independent wrestling promotions out there. So if you can try to narrow down, what are some of your favorite ones that you currently keep up with?
So first and foremost, my number one is where I work the most and where I do commentary. But it's not professional wrestling; it is stunt fighting.
Ooh.
Take that, that State Athletic Commission. The Sanctuary. I love the Sanctuary. For me, the important part of professional wrestling or stunt fighting or anything is the art aspect and telling the stories. And I think I'm really proud of the storytelling they do there. And I think it's really fun that, like, we don't know who's going to come week to week, because it's a situation, just to kind of pull the curtain back, no one gets paid, right? So Trotsky is a former professional wrestler, also stuntman. He helped he was in the movie business, he was in the wrestling business. Has had ups and downs like any other person, depending on who you ask or talk to about him. You might get a good report card, you may get a bad one, but I will tell you this: that he's a great human, and he'll do anything for you if he cares about you. He has his ups and downs just like anybody else. But this guy is dumping money left and right into an old church to keep it up and running and to pay the bills, and his family and his mom and his dad are there every show working. Sure, yes, maybe we're not getting paid in that aspect, but you walk into that building and you get the foot, and you have a photographer who shows up, and it's just essentially everyone who's just chipping in to make art, and whatever comes out of it comes out of it. We don't even charge people at the door to come in. Like, you want to walk off the street and come in and see a match. It's
such an amazing atmosphere there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you look at the history, man. Like, Bowens wrestled there, MJF wrestled there, Britt Baker wrestled there, Ace Austin is there, all that here, there. Jamie Senegal, Daphne was there. Like, people who worked there are on TV, and a lot of them say is like, man, it was the first time I felt like I was TV ready because of the way the production team is. I love working there. I love the environment. The family that we have there is beautiful, and I think there's a lot of sleeper people that people should be knowing about there that we'll get into later.
If I'm not mistaken, they're very involved in the community as well. They have a lot of I was there one night for a show, and they actually had local politicians who were there in the building and just talking to fans, and like they're very well respected in the community, and that's
also
important.
Also a very big advocate and home for if you don't feel welcome because you may be in the LGBTQ community, because they're under attack. They have a lot of hate going towards them because they just want to live life. They want to be just like everybody else. Yeah. And there's people who walk by a church and see a giant rainbow flag and they just come in on that aspect and are like, and they're like, oh, you don't like wrestling, but you need somewhere to feel and you want someone to just care about who you are as a person. Welcome, come in here. Yeah. We had a kid the other day come in and he's 13 years old and he's out, you know what I mean? Which is insane to me. Like I knew kids who went to school with who didn't want to be around anymore and unfortunately took their own lives because they rather do that than worried if they're going to be accepted. And this kid is like, I'm getting picked on and bullied and this. And so he just doesn't really know much about wrestling. He's fallen in love with it, but like he comes with his friends and it's a place for him. It's a sanctuary. It's a place for him to feel welcome and he feels okay to be who he is. And that's important too. And it's all done in the power of professional wrestling or stunt fighting.
Wrestling is just, I wish people would understand that wrestling is just more than fake fighting. Like we've been saying this whole show, it's about the community. It's about a vibe. It's about feeling like you're more than just a ticket holder, that you're a part of the show. Like when I've been to both OVAC shows with Ralph, I never felt more at home than when I was on the last 2 Jericho Cruises I was on. I never felt more at home in that environment than being anywhere else. It's just you're amongst peers and everyone's there for the same thing and everyone just wants to have a good time.
It's so many different cultures and so many different races and sexual orientations and it's beautiful.
They don't care about who's versing who or whatever. They just care about watching good wrestling. Like that's all. That's, at the end of the day, I don't care whose side you're on. I don't believe in the whole this tribalism. It's just watch good wrestling. That's it. Just appreciate wrestling for what it is, and that's how it should be always.
Another good promotion. It's a network of promotions. So if you go to one, they have a team of other promotions. They all work together. It's High Tension Wrestling. Helped out a lot with their production team and did some commentary here and there. But I started with them when they started doing Camp Leapfrog. Camp Leapfrog was essentially Chikar 2.0 for the most part. But that was really cool. And that's where I kind of met a lot of those people who came from that school in that era. And they're some of the most amazing and beautiful people. And that was during a pandemic. So we had no fans, no nothing. And that was just kind of like just making cinematic wrestling, which my heart, I wish we can kind of still do in a way because it was so much fun.
I'm sure it was,
that was really cool. All of their stuff is on YouTube as well as Sanctuary. So if you go to Sanctuary on YouTube and High Tension, all their stuff is there. Really, PPW, another home for me that would have been very welcoming. I don't know the future of them now, but I first it was Outbreak and now it's AXW. That's another great company. Another one to keep an eye out for. Orochi is another one in the area. Of course, LBAC.
Familiar belt behind you that I think one Joel Ruda got.
Yes, Joe Ruda had made that. Ruda also made belts for promotions like Win Wrestling and stuff like that. There's just so much. The best thing I could do is like follow people like myself, follow people like Opinion City, because they're out there grinding. Follow your independent wrestling journalists, because we're going to put you on to some really, really talented people and really talented promotions that you should be investing your time into. I can go on for days. I know so many. You know what I mean? I'll be here all day just saying like, oh, go to Pro Wrestling Magic, go to Creative Pro, House of Glory. Like I can be here all day.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. So this is it's been great getting to catch up with you and learn a little bit about your podcast and get some of your views on wrestling here, but we've got a little bit of business to take care of, so we are going to take a short break while you check out this message from our sponsor, Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles. And
what a great guy he is too.
Oh, he's phenomenal.
He's
if you have not met Larry Peace, get out there.
He probably has no idea who I am, but I went to his way back in the day. I think I wasn't even a content creator yet. I just stumbled into like I call them dirt malls. That's what we call them out here.
Yeah.
They're just like
exactly.
Yeah, they're just little buildings. That's like kind of essentially PPW is in a dirt mall, but it's beautiful. Right. Like when I say dirt malls, I don't think they're dirty places. Like they're beautiful places. but I kind of
if you're from Pennsylvania, you know what dirt mall means.
Yeah,
you're picturing one in your head right now.
Yeah, I think I think in their mind, when I say dirt malls, I just see like toilet paper. I don't know. But
No.
I walked into this building and I'm walking around, and it's like everyone's grandmother's attic and just all this old stuff like glassware and stuff. And I turn this corner and I just walk into like this wrestling haven, and there's people's gear on the wall, and it was all autographed, and every figure you can imagine. And there's this
that's cool.
Big smiling redhead just back there, and he's just smiling. And I talked to him for like 2 hours, and he told me he was a referee and stuff. And at the time, I wasn't a content creator, but I got to meet him way back in the day. He left a great impression, and since then, I've been following him, and I kind of keep an eye on everything he's doing. So this commercial is important because he's a really good person, and he's another one who's a trailblazer of the independent wrestling scene and someone you should be supporting and loving.
Absolutely. So check out this ad, and we will be right back with our main event right here on the Opinion City Podcast.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Introducing Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles, your ultimate destination for all things wrestling nostalgia. At Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles, they don't just sell items, they curate memories. Whether you're a fan of the classic era or modern showdowns, they've got something for everyone. Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles sells DVDs, books, magazines, action figures, and so much more. So stop on by Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles, where every piece tells a story and every fan becomes a part of the legacy. Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles is conveniently located inside Mother Tucker's Antiques and Collectibles, located at 566 North Reading Road in Ephrata, PA. Stop on by Thursday through Monday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Give them a call at 717-405-0153 or find them on social media at Ref Larry's WC. Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles is a proud sponsor of the Opinion City Podcast. And now, back to the show.
That graphic of everyone cheering and the girl just going, yeah, is my
honestly, so my favorite is the dude at the end that's doing the little wave.
Doing a little wave.
Yeah.
We are back here on Opinion City, and we want to thank Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles for being a proud sponsor of the Opinion City Podcast. If you'd like to become a sponsor, please send us an email at opinion.citypod@gmail.com.
So that means it's time. It is time to get into our main event.
We have a multitude of lists from our guests. We're pretty much giving him the floor. We thought it was going to be one top 5, but apparently it's multiple top 5. So what we got?
A couple. Now listen, if you're listening to this because you love me, and I appreciate you following me over to somebody else's content, that means the world. That's my goal, is to have a big enough brand that people who listen to me go support me in other places. So if you are here from my side of things, do me a favor and make sure you subscribe and show them love. Thank you guys once again for having me. But you guys asked me to do a list, and you guys have lists of anything I want, and I picked top 5 people you should be watching on the independent scene. So if you did not make the list, I still love you. But I have a top 5 men, I have a top 5 women, and then I have like a little like honorable mention that I feel like people should know about as well. So I'm going to start off with the men's side of things on the independent wrestling scene.
All right. Let's do it.
So number one is going to be someone who I won't give everyone big bios either, because I don't want to be here all day long. But this guy here, literally, I've watched him be a chubby little theater kid who had the weirdest look I've ever seen in my life. And he goes, "I'm going to be a wrestler one day." And I go, yeah, right. Like, but he has transformed himself and just got himself so much confidence, took his interesting look and turned it into something absolutely magical. And I feel you could insert this person in any era of wrestling and he would scratch that itch. He's a workhorse when it comes to behind the scenes of setting rings up. He is a trainer. He is he could be a ring announcer. He could be a referee. You literally put commentary I've done with him. You could put him in any role in this business and he will absolutely thrive. I booked matches. I booked shows with him. And in the ring, he is hands down one of the greatest people I've ever seen, and a great human being. And that is the thespian J.S. Hawthorne. If you don't know about him, seek him out. He's a beautiful human being, and he's absolutely amazing. That's number 1 on my list. Number 2 is always everybody else's number 1. When you think of independent wrestling right now, and you think of who should be someone that everyone should know and who should be supporting, it's Darius Carter. Darius Carter is someone, if you don't know, seek him out. It's a criminal thing right now that people are not. He's not on our TV every week.
Yeah.
Number 3 is someone who is absolutely holding it down at PPW. I think he's one of the most talented people, former ROH, but now in the wrestling scene. He's a locker room leader. He's helping people back. I'm probably blowing him up. He probably doesn't want this much praise. He's a dirtball. He's a scumbag. But Brian Johnson, the Mecca, is someone you should be. He invokes such emotion out of his. Good. Yeah, he's another person, like you talk about that Wembley moment of MJF and Adam Cole and them performing, but the people actually caring about what they're doing in the ring. That's Brian Johnson, as well as Darius Carter.
He's definitely a sleeper. People are sleeping on him.
For sure.
That's for sure.
Here is one of the most innovative people I've ever seen in professional wrestling. I absolutely love calling his matches on commentary. He's another one I'm giving a lot of love to the Sanctuary right now, but he is from Gleason's Gym in New York. He's trained from Johnny Rods and Cowboy Billy Walker. He had some appearances on NWA Strong, but his name is Prince Ahmed. He is a shoot from Egypt. I got to interview him. He doesn't do a lot of interviews out of character. He's someone who really protects his character, but he's a really good dude. But he does stuff in a ring that he's just coming up with new stretches and new. I watched him German suplex 2 people using nothing but his legs.
Oh,
use your imagination. That's insane.
Wild.
Yeah, he ran up, wrapped his legs around him, did a backflip, and German suplex 2 people. He's
crazy.
He's incredible. He's someone who literally lived in Egypt. His family would go over to America, bring him home wrestling tapes, and that was how he consumed professional wrestling. He didn't watch it week to week, but that was enough for him to be like, when I get older, I'm going to travel away from my friends and my family and everything I know about my country, and I'm going to go to America, and I'm going to make a run at being a professional wrestler, and more people should know about him. He's absolutely incredible. And number 5 is going to be Andre Polino, another kid, mostly out of the Sanctuary. He's starting to do some stuff now in Titan and a few other places. He looks like a small little spry guy, but he hits you with, he can hit a 7-foot guy in the face with a spin heel kick. He brings so much emotion and he just demands so much respect in the ring. He's such a talented person. Another person, came from another country, came in here, fell in love with professional wrestling, and has been killing it ever since. Now the women's list. Number 1, hands down, should be on TV. Erica Lee. Love Erica Lee.
She's amazing. Yeah.
She'll make you laugh. Yeah, she'll make you laugh. She'll make you cry. She'll make you do everything. But then also, she will beat the dog crap at anyone.
That's for sure. Yes.
She hits so hard. And she's also, when I say Erica Lee, I'll group with the rest of the people she works. Follow her and the Goons. Her, Dustin, Killian, Eel O'Neill, all of them. Also, Erica Lee has, I'm going to give her a quick plug. Her and Dust, who, if you don't know Big Dust, he's one of the most entertaining people, managers on independent wrestling. They do their own YouTube channel called Birds on Film, where they go and watch a film and they talk about it. Just listen to Erica and Big Dust talk. That's all I need to tell you. Go subscribe to that channel. Nice. Number 2, she just made her MLW debut last night against Janai Kai. Unfortunately, she got her face kicked off because Janai Kai is that goat. Follow Janai Kai as well, but the person I'm saying is Riley Crow. She's she's WXW trained, Wild Samoan, been grinding for a long time, super talented. So go support Riley Crow, the Cake Boss. She goes by the Cake Boss.
Love that name.
Use your imagination of why she's called the Cake Boss. Another one, she's trained from some people from Chikara side of things. Crummels is her first trainer. Also, she's at the Worldwide Dojo with world famous CB. I got to interview her, and she's just so emotionally passionate about professional wrestling. She's been killing it on the scene. She just had her LVAC debut. Everyone should be talking to her and learning about her because I think she's going to be blowing up. Harleen Lopez. She's not even in.
We see her. We saw her at Studio Sac. And I think she was also at the LVAC show that Friday too.
Festival Unbound. Yep, she was there too.
Absolutely incredible. Her passion for this business is amazing. She should be supporting her. Yes, she's awesome.
Yes.
Her and I have had some wonderful interactions at wrestling shows.
They had the best reactions during
yes.
That's the one.
Yeah,
Pretty much every time she was over on our side, she would yell at Ralph, and I'm like, Ralph, you're just getting screamed at every chance.
She's crazy, man. She has knives and stuff. I wouldn't.
Oh yeah, I'm a little worried now. She doesn't know where I live, so we're good.
Stay away.
Yeah, she'll find her IP. She's nuts.
I'm sure she will.
Yeah. Number 4 on this list is going to be when I think of Northeast wrestling scene and the women's scene, I think of this person from New York all the way down to Maryland or as far down as she wants to go. I think she's just the top of the heap when it comes to female wrestling. Christina Marie. Courageous Christina Marie is so insanely talented. If I had to compare her to somebody, if you think Zoe Starks is killing it on WWE, she's essentially her and Christina are, you can intertwine them. I think they both have a very, very good character. They're believable and they will knock your face off. Just really, really talented.
We had her in PCWA years ago, and she was great back then, and she's even better now.
And number 5 is someone from the New York scene. She worked PPW for a while. Love her to death. Her name is Cosmic. Right now, she's at the I think it's Battle Club in New York, out of New York. Okay. She maybe is or still was their champion at what she definitely was. She beat Trisha Dore for it. She's doing amazing up at that school. Prince Ahmed's a trainer up there as well as some other. Masha Slamovich is a trainer up there, and she's been really taking advantage of some really great training and doing very well. So go check out Cosmic. She's her hashtag is she's your favorite. She's absolutely fantastic.
She's your favorite. That's perfect.
Yeah. And then some 5 honorable mentions. And this is, I'm going to gear this one more towards younger talent that I think you should know that are, I know like Riley's still like, she's been around a while, but she's back on the scene. Harleen's insanely new. Cosmic somewhat new. Some other amounts are, but these ones are like year 1, if not year 2 into their career. Super talented. Ricky Price is a guy out there. Not only is he putting on great matches, but his promo game and what he's doing on the side to promote matches using his social media, bar none, amazing. Right. A guy at PPW right now, trained with Alpha Jr. Dio Bando. This kid's got the look. He's got the charisma. He's insanely humble. Keep an eye on Dio Bando.
Yeah, I've seen him live. He's special. He's gonna have a great career.
Yeah, Journey Burke, Esquire. She's a shoot lawyer by day and an ass kicker by night.
That's awesome.
She's another one out of the Worldwide Dojo. I believe trained with Crumbles and stuff in that as well. And I'll group her into with the next pick, Junie Underwood and the Lost Boys.
Oh, the Lost Boys are so good.
Absolutely fantastic.
I'm
going to pick Junie because I had him on the podcast, and I'll show him that love. If you want to hear more about him, there's a way to go about it. But I will have the rest of the Lost Boys on. I fell in love with them at Tony Deppen does. He allows I will say fight-tacular events at his brewery, and their Speedball Mike Bailey episodes. And they're all on his Twitch channel. You can go back and rewatch them. I have a poster back here. So Speedball Mike Bailey does these brewery shows, but it's just mats on the floor and they wrestle in a brewery at Tony Deppen's place, and they put on some of the most entertaining things. But I fell in love with Junie Wood and the Underwood and the Lost Boys there.
Yeah,
check them out. And then the last one is more people should know about him. If you don't, shame on you. But I think he is going to be the future of professional wrestling alongside of someone he's been working with his entire life. The only reason he didn't make the list, because I know you know the person I'm talking about in that aspect, but it's Griffin McCoy. Griffin McCoy, Young, Dumb, and Broke. That whole stable is just insanely talented. I think Griffin McCoy and Jordan Oliver are your next Wheeler Yuta and your next Daniel Garcias of professional wrestling. I think they're going to be someone who they're going to be intertwined with each other for years and years and years to come. I watched Garcia and Yuta wrestle at IWTV 100 and do an hour-long match in the hottest building I've ever been in my life, and then watching them do it on AEW and then on ROH. I think Griffin and Jordan Oliver are going to be that next two up. And if you don't know the history between CZW, JCW, and GCW, and how there may be some tension and some beef there, these are two young stars who are looking to use their talent to possibly bring together a wrestling community and wrestling promotions to possibly do good things in the future. And I think that's their mission statement. Like, we love this brand, and I love this brand, and we want to work each other. Maybe let's put aside some differences and make it about us to promote, because the promotions need to learn that their promotion is important, but at the end of the day, it's their talent that keeps their promotion running. And if you like us and you think we're the future, maybe come together so we can have these super matches and tell these amazing stories. And I think that's really special. Yeah. So Griffin McCoy is going to be my roundup, but he could have easily been number one on the list. He's super talented.
That's awesome.
And there's so many more. I have almost 100 episodes coming out. Go follow them. If they're on my podcast, I feel you should know about them. Another one I'll just quick throw out. He's coming back from injury, and I think he's super special. He was probably one of the hottest guys in the independent scene. Blew his knee out, and now is on his recovery. But Matt Makowski, follow that.
Oh,
he's such a talent.
Absolutely.
Such a talent, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great call.
I'll give you a spoiler. That's the last episode of my season 1 at the end of the year is Matt Makowski. Super great guy.
Very cool.
I have to check that out.
Yeah.
All right.
That's my long list. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, at all.
No, please.
You're writing names down.
All right.
Book them all on here and talk to them. They're all amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're gonna we'll make sure that we hook everybody up on socials and let everybody know how they can find these people, how they can see these people, because it's very important that even we as just podcasters do our part to help promote these people and help get these people and get more eyes on them. We're kind of nothing without them, because we spend so much time talking about them, but they do so much for us by putting their bodies on the line. So it's important that we take this little time just to recognize some of them and do what we can to help as many people get as many eyes on them as we can.
Yeah, and if you're a content creator watching this, or you're someone who supports these guys, and also not even content creator, just looking for the next person you want to follow, use platforms like ours or mine. You see someone on my podcast and you see I had a good interview with them, don't think you're stepping on my toes by saying, well, I can't book them because they've been on ABJ. Please say, hey, I listened to your episode on ABJ and I would love to have you on my podcast and hear more of your story, because you may have questions that I didn't pull out, or you may have something that I didn't do. Give all of the people that you see on my podcast platform another opportunity to be on another one. And please, for the love of God, book them and let them get their story out there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So it's interesting that you mention booking other people and getting them on other shows and things like that. It's a perfect time to talk about some upcoming events we've got going on.
Oh, yeah. Let's get into it.
All right, so
check my schedule.
Well, you didn't see us dancing during the break.
You were just looking around.
It's all right. I have to say, and this is one of the best parts about doing this podcast is that we make these videos for a reason, because we use them during the podcast, but we also make these videos and then find out that they amuse us greatly. So we'll dance during the videos. There'll be sometimes where I'm bored during the week, and so I'll just pop into the studio here and play one of those videos and sing along with it. Or it's ridiculous. That's too much information.
Too much info.
But yeah. All right. So I imagine that this is probably a loaded question. So Anthony, why don't you tell us what you've got coming up, both in your podcast and your indie wrestling career here? What do you got going on?
So right now the indie wrestling career is very, very low for me. So I'm currently without a car and a job. So support helps, but no. So I can't really travel to a lot of shows. Very, very stumped at a lot of my bookings. The only place I'm really working right now is the Sanctuary, because it's not a far drive to make it to where I am to Hazleton. So I have a show. I won't be performing at the show, but I will be there supporting at the Sanctuary. So on the 22nd, they're going to be doing another lip sync drag show. They've been doing drag show events at the Sanctuary. Yeah. If you know the Sanctuary and you know the lights and you know the sound, and if you've ever been to a drag show where they like to throw their bodies around and take bumps, you should watch them do it in a professional wrestling ring. It's a lot of fun.
Amazing, absolutely.
And it's treated like it's one-on-one battles, and at the end the winner wins the title, and then 4 winners from each show will then compete later on in the year for the ultimate championship belt of the promotion. We're making like a drag show. I don't know. It's a lot of fun. So definitely, if you're into that, come out and support. That's going to be on the 22nd. And then on the 29th, the Sanctuaries will be performing once again another show. They are absolutely the drag shows. You do have to buy tickets, but every Sanctuary show is absolutely free. And if you are not in the area and you cannot make it, we're always live on YouTube. And I'm doing interactive commentary. So while you're chatting along on the YouTube side, I am interacting with you as I'm doing commentary. Nice. I don't see anyone else doing it, and I'm being awesome. A trendsetter there.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. So that's what I got going on. But we always have shows every first Friday, and usually every third or last Sunday of the month for Sanctuary. But that's mostly where you can find me if you want to come see and support my art. But podcasts every Thursday night or every Thursday at midnight, an episode is dropping, audio and video. You can search at ABJ Podcast on all podcast platforms or music apps, as well as YouTube. You can watch them along there. If you want episodes early, you can hang out. You can join the Patreon. I don't have an entry level fee, but the lowest you have to do is $1, and you get the episode on a Monday before a Thursday and get to see everything earlier. But I have pretty much enough content recorded from now to the end of the year till possibly for a little bit in the future, because like I said before, some life changes are coming for me. So I may have to step away from content, but at least I'll have enough content recorded that I'll stay active on that side for a while. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got when it comes to content. I'm going to try to do some more stuff in the future, whether it be movie reviews, music reviews, horror movie reviews. I'm trying to bring some of that stuff back as for fun, because all of my interviews will be done for a while. So if I can sneak in quick to make a piece of content and put it out there, I'm going to try to do so.
Nice.
That's awesome. And people can find links to all the stuff you're doing. You have a Linktree, Anthony Blackwell Jr.
Super easy. Yep.
Yeah. Linktree, the big savior of the internet.
Yeah.
We similarly are pretty much booked through the end of the year as well, aren't we?
Listen, all right. So it is. Yeah, it is monstrous.
Before I forget, I was telling Ralph earlier. I was like, listen, we had a guest plan for today. Things happened out of our control. I messaged you because I wanted our 10 streak week to be alive, because we were at 9. You made it 10. We'll have a 10-week streak of guests from now until the end of pretty much the end of the year.
Yes, we are fully booked through the end of the year. So just to give you a little idea of what's going on next week, we have a friend of the show, friend of mine, who is an entertainer, a journalist, a podcaster, a fellow wrestling fan, a fellow Chikara fan in Ben Silverio, who will be joining us next week. And then October 29th is
following week.
A ridiculous.
It's going to be a big one for us. We have the full trio of the Cyberhawks, the flyest team in the galaxy, on one podcast. They said this will be the first time that they're all together on one episode together. So that's going to be exciting. Next going to be a little after dark.
Unmasked guys, you won't do it. No,
yeah.
No, that content.
Well, listen. No, hold on. That could be a possibility, because as Sean just said, this is going to be another episode of Opinion City After Dark, because this one's going to be live at 9:30 p.m.
9:30 p.m.
on October 29th. So
I'm going to give you a little inside information though, and you can probably you can do this. I will say this: 99% of the people behind masks at Chikara are all the most attractive people you ever see in your life.
So I've heard. That is the rumor.
There's some people that like, why are you in a mask?
Yeah,
you're just killing yourself. You're cutting your moneymaker right out from underneath you.
We won't go into too much details yet, but I will just roll out the carpet and say that I will say it's kind of going to be my month, even though it's our month. But get ready for the Monster Factory series to begin in November. We will have a month of Monster Factory love, Monster Factory interviews, and the like. So stay tuned for that.
I think I'm recording one with the Monster Factory guys soon. Actually, what's today? Tomorrow.
Today's the 15th. Yep.
It won't air for a long time, but Merrick Miami, he's a Monster Factory guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So we've got a whole month of Monster Factory content planned, and then December is going to be pretty crazy too, because we're closing out 2023 with a bang. We've got someone we just talked about on the podcast today. We've got Mr. Ruda. Joel Ruda himself is going to be joining us first week of December.
Correct.
Then we've got Billy Avery. Billy Avery's coming in. Oh yeah, let's show it in. Let's see it.
Joel, man, a personal gift from Joel Ruda. What a nice guy.
I gotta say, that belt is absolutely beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Like if you have not seen seen his work up close, then you need to see his belts, because they are a beautiful work of art.
They are a work of art for sure.
Yeah, puts a lot of time and effort into that. So we've got him.
Such a great human being too.
Oh yeah, really cool guy. So we've got him coming on beginning of December. Then second week in December, we'll be talking to Billy Avery, who's going to join us to talk about Labor of Love Philly, which is really exciting. And following Billy, we've got Puff coming on December 17th, who's going to be joining us. Puff is if you don't know who Puff is, why are you watching wrestling? First off,
seek out Puff.
Because Puff is just, I mean, Puff is one of those human beings that is just like fun from the minute you start talking to him till the minute he's out of the room. Like, Puff is just incredible. And I can reveal this exclusively now. You should be excited there, Anthony. You're on our big upcoming events reveal here, but I'm going to reveal our Christmas Eve episode.
Hey.
We are going to have a special Christmas Eve episode entitled "We Wish You a Dirtbag Christmas," as we are having an interview.
Dan.
Dirtbag Dan will be our Christmas Eve interview. We saw him a few weeks ago at Legends of Hamburg, and we had
I was with him on Friday night. He was at JS Hawthorne's birthday party.
Nice.
He is one of my most favorite people to commentate for wrestling shows, because it's just if you've never seen Dirtbag Dan wrestle, it's funny. I have my friend. She had to get in touch with him because she had to give him some stuff from somebody else, and she's like, "Well, who's Dirtbag Dan?" I'm like, "He's not here yet." She goes, "Well, I don't know who he is." I go, "You will as soon as you see him." she's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "As soon as you see him walk in, you're gonna be like, you're Dirtbag Dan."
Have you seen the car?
Oh, the car is amazing.
The car is amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. So we Dirtbag Dan and I got to catch up a little bit, because again, he is one of the PCWA alumni from many years ago, Dirtbag Dan is just a great guy. So
probably very smart that you're doing the interview via Zoom and there's no smell-o-vision. Jesus.
Yeah, we don't want to ruin any illusions for anybody.
No, exactly.
Yes. But we will be doing an episode with him as our Christmas Eve spectacular. We wish you a dirtbag Christmas.
I love that.
So yeah, so we've got a lot of great things.
List gonna be?
Did he get back to? I don't think he got back to us with his list yet. But as soon as we,
I think
as soon as we know, he was very excited. Because we proposed this idea of a list to him, and I said, "Listen," I said, "it doesn't have to be about wrestling. It can be about anything you want." And he was like, "Anything?" He's like, "So I could do like top 90s Nickelodeon shows?"
We're like, yes,
and we're like, "Listen, you could do whatever you want." Like,
the top 5 greatest pop culture dirtbags. That should be.
that's perfect.
I'm gonna
number one.
That to him.
You know what number? So if without looking at Dirtbag Dan, he is if Pigpen from Peanuts and Trevor from Grand Theft Auto were merged into a human.
Oh, that's
absolutely
incredible. Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
I love it. So yeah, we've got a busy year. We're rounding out the year, and we're not going to announce our New Year's Eve special yet, but we've got something very special in the plans, and if it all works out, it's going to be a really amazing treat for all the fans out there.
Yes.
So we're hoping that comes through. But yeah, it's a very busy year for the rest of us. So for the rest of our year, it's going to be kind of crazy.
Can I ask you guys a question real quick?
Oh, yes. Yeah, sure.
Who's your bucket list? Like, who's someone you want to interview on the independent scene that you just haven't reached out personally? Because me personally, there's a lot that I don't reach out to because I suck at reaching out because I get such anxiety from it. Like, they're not going to want to do this stupid stuff. It is helping that I'm trending and I'm charting. So like people are like, oh, he might have some eyes on him. So I'll go on. But yeah, so like there's a lot of people I want to have on and people I'm really, really good friends with. They're like, yo, how come I haven't on your show? I'm like, I didn't know if you wanted to do it or not. Like, I don't know. I'm so self-conscious with that. So a little behind the scenes. But who's someone that you maybe haven't reached out to, or maybe you want to, but you're trying to like find the right time for it?
So I know there's one that we've been talking about since literally episode 1, and that being Orange Cassidy. That's like the goal. But for me now,
He just did his first like the press conferences. I think the most I've ever seen him talk on camera ever.
The best answer he could have given anybody was when someone asked him about being the greatest wrestler. Well, I mean, and he just went no.
Yeah, I love when he said
it's just like no.
When they asked him like who's your favorite wrestler, and he actually gave a long form answer, and I thought it was not only amazing and it shows who he is as a person if you actually know him, but like his mind, because he's like I love Jake the Snake Roberts, but like growing up and making my person who I am right now, I don't want to ever be considered the next insert wrestler name here. I don't want to be like, I don't want when you watch me, I don't want you to be like, oh, you could tell he's inspired by Shawn Michaels or Jake the Snake, because I wanted to be the first Orange Cassidy, and the guy did it. Like he's now going to be the bar of like, yo, you're the next Orange Cassidy. Like he's the first of any. Like he's so I love him to death. Actually, his sunglasses are right there.
Oh, very nice.
Not actually his, but a pair of sunglasses.
There's a new one that I'm trying to get Ralph to lean on, and Ralph seems to have a plan to get him on the show because he has said on his Twitter that he's a mute, but that is Blue Cane.
Okay.
So we have been trying to get him on the show now. And Ralph has a plan.
I kind of do.
That he's been asked so many times about being on podcasts, and he said he can't because he's a mute because his voice box was frozen. Because Blue Cane, his power is snow.
Yes.
And I love that, and I want him on the show so bad, but we need to find a way to get through that avenue of getting him on the show.
I am gonna start a campaign on social media for the thawing out of the voice box. So I do have a plan. But this is an interesting question because honestly, I have two answers. It's funny that Sean brought up Orange Cassidy because honestly, when we first started about doing this and seeking out guests, Orange Cassidy was kind of the goal where we set the bar. Yeah. Like if we can work our way up and kind of get ourselves to that point, because I feel like between what we're doing, the people we know, the people that he knows, like it's a very real possibility somewhere down the line. However, I am a little worried that we will get him booked for the show and he'll do the entire interview in character because I don't know how I'll deal with that. So that's
I have a hard time with in character interviews because I'm so driven on like I want to learn about you as a person, but I also respect the fact that people are protective of their character.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm a little concerned about how we'd handle that, but my I have two answers for this question. One is professional and one is personal. Professionally, my goal has been Ultramanus Black from the beginning, because I've met Ultramanus.
That was fun.
Listen, I will say this right now, and I don't care who has an opinion on this any other way, but next to Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, I would put Ultramanus Black and Larry Sweeney up against anybody as a commentary team. If you have not heard them, go back and watch old Shakara shows, specifically their Hellertown shows from the VFW. That's where Ultramanus and Larry did most of their commentary together, and they were just, you'll never have more fun listening to wrestling commentary, I don't think, ever. But I've met Ultramanus a couple times, actually. The very first year that the Mahoning Valley Drive-In did Real Rumble, my friend Jim Murray, who is one of the bonus episodes on Opinion City, he got to ring announce that show, and so we had to be at the show early. So I went up with him, and we actually got to meet Ultramanus Black before the show, and it was just, I mean, you want to talk about like geeking out and being a fanboy, like it was insane. So professionally,
he's on my bucket list of a mask I would love to have in the background of my podcast. Nice. I would love to own an Ultramanus mask.
Oh, he is the absolute coolest masks. But so that professionally, Ultramanus Black. Personally, for me, and anybody that knows me will know right off the bat that I have always wanted to interview my personal favorite indie wrestler of all time, Juan Francisco de Coronado.
Of course.
Who I've got much Juan merchandise. I've got the Ecuadorian flag over here. I've got I actually made, he had a finishing move called the Coronado Clutch, and so I made a poster that I had printed on Vistaprint that is a take on the Bullet Club logo, except it says Coronado Clutch, and in the center it's got a big bow tie, and it's so
behind your head.
I've wanted to get him on the show for a long time. I'm still working on it. I see him in the random weirdest places. Like when I was a fan in Chikara, I was basically known as his only fan. Like it was on podcasts. Chikara posted it on their Twitter.
You were a trendsetter.
I was during that title run. I was his only fan. So, I was at a Boys to Men concert one time with my wife because she wanted to see Boys to Men, and we were in line for merchandise after the show, and somebody comes up to me and taps me on the shoulder, and I turn around and here it's Juan Francisco. He recognized me from like across the crowd and came over to talk to me. I'm like,
that's awesome.
This is insane.
I think you're shooting for an interview. If he came out to you at a Boys to Men concert, just send a DM. So, you got your interview.
So yeah, I'm not too concerned about that, but he's definitely on the bucket list for me.
You have mine. You guys were interviewed one of mine.
Really?
Avery. Yeah, Avery's on my list. Avery and Darius. But the thing is like I respect them if they do it in character. But there are two that I would love to get out of character because, as we both know, like as human beings, they're just good people. Like if they came out of character and just showed who they really are as people and how much they've truly helped people in this industry as trainers and as just people to get advice from. The other one on that list I will say is like I always respect these three as names in the business is Darius, Avery, and Deshaun Pratt is another one.
Yes.
If you talk to him, and he's just so helpful when it comes to just like they've been there, they've seen it, they've helped people hit that level of their next level of who they are as a person in life and in this business. They're just three good people.
There were two others on my list that I'm still working on. One of them being, of course, like the Deathmatch King of Jersey, Brandon Kirk. I've seen him wrestle a few times. He is just a phenomenal wrestler. I'd love to get him on. There's one more that just left my brain that I was just thinking about, and I don't know, it just went away. But I had two. One of them was Brandon Kirk. I know we want to get Sydney on at some point as well. Ralph.
Cindy Bacabella.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Listen,
it's a great one. That's a great one.
So Sydney and I have known each other since the Chikara days, and
so talented.
We used to have these random tweets where we would send each other pictures of things that we were different meats and foods that we were smoking in our backyard smokers, because Sydney is like a big fan of, like, he smokes everything, mac and cheese, pizza, like he'll just put anything in the smoker. So
the trick is get interviewed him at his house so you get dinner out of it too. Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm not opposed to traveling for the show, but that would be cool.
The episode of that's gotta be on the ABJ. So I didn't realize that I had a really funny connotation with my initials, and it took me 36 years of my life to figure it out. But like, that would be the ABJ podcast, eating Sydney Bacabella's smoked meat or something like that.
Yes. So there's that would be incredible. But yeah, it's funny that you talk about Avery being on your list and wanting to have him out of character. When we first started doing this, and I started looking at like who can we get for guests, I started looking down the list of Chikara contacts I had, and he was one of the first people I had reached out to, and it took a little while to get him scheduled. He had to cancel his first appearance, and so we had to get him rescheduled. But Avery, like you said, Avery is just a great guy, and he is he's such a professional. But what's great about him is that you can tell that he is really a fan of the art form. He's a fan. Like when you listen to him talk about, especially like when he went from Dasher Hatfield to Avery, and when he talks about that transition, like you can just see and hear the passion in him come out. It's incredible. So he's a great interview
with Camp Leapfrog, kind of going back to it again, but it's just like they were close sets. Like it was someone's house, and then we put a ring in a yard, and it was just an all day thing, like 9 a.m. till 10 o'clock at night. And and there was gaps where we just like swam in a pool or ate barbecue or like just sat and just hung out with each other. It was like it was such a special moment, man. And it was like that's why I had so many, like a lot of the interviews I have on now are people from that time frame, because it was just you develop friendships, you know what I mean? Like it was wrestling. It was the same thing we talked about, that wrestling family, but if you just had a cookout with them all, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah.
It was just so magical.
All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. This is definitely something that we are
I'm
going to have
always
to
down.
do again.
You guys ever need somebody, someone bails out, or you just want to come talk about what's happening in the world? I'm down. You guys are amazing. You're super professional. You guys conduct yourselves very well. I look forward to listening to it more, and you guys are killing it. I thank you so much for having me.
Now we gotta do the opposite crossover and be on your.
Yes, absolutely.
Because we'll come tell stories.
I will have you on, but I'm telling you, it probably won't air till like next March.
That's all right. Listen, I got like 450 wrestler stories in the can ready to go. Like I
love it.
I've met so many people, so I'm ready to tell stories. I can be interesting.
Real fast? Who's your favorite? Like the favorite person you ever met?
A favorite person I've ever met? Probably Mick Foley. He's been the nicest, and I've met him like 6 different times.
He's my number 2 of all time. Sean's number 1, Mick's number 2.
Yeah. Mick has been really great, and honestly, I've met him under a number of different circumstances, including one of them being him signing books. He wrote a book about being a professional Santa Claus. And so he was actually signing that at the Moravian bookstore in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, like in December. And so he did a big signing there. And to make a long story short, I was playing a Santa Claus somewhere, and so he did like a reading from his book and took questions before the actual signing. So I got to ask him his advice on being a professional Santa Claus.
Nice.
So like those are memories you just can't you just can't fabricate. And
it's
honestly,
so weird to think that Santa Claus is also mankind. So
yeah. And I will tease this too for our eventual appearance on the ABJ podcast, but I have a great story that Mick Foley told me at a book signing about one of his appearances for a non-wrestling book on Good Morning America, and the story is just hilarious.
I always wear a Mick Foley t-shirt every single time I go to Knoebels in the hopes
yes
he's there.
Nice.
Listen,
Knoebels
I actually
is a local theme park by us. If you don't know, it's a free admission theme park. You just pay to ride the rides. The food is always amazing.
You pay nothing for parking.
Nothing for parking, nothing to get in. And it's Mick and his family's like favorite place to go.
He loves it.
When people it's like it's a thing. When people see Mick at Knoebels, it's like, I met Mick Foley at Knoebels. So every time I go, I always wear a Mick Foley t-shirt in hopes. Yeah.
And I'll tease this for the podcast too. I worked at Knoebels for a short time, and I actually put him on a ride, and I have a great story about that too. So
nice.
Lots of Mick Foley stories for when we come.
I heard the chair that's by, you know how there's a random chair that sits at the Phoenix,
yes,
like on the other side. I heard that's essentially his chair. Like his kid gets on the ride, and he just rides it like 3 or 4 times, and then Mick just sits in that chair and waits for him.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting stories about Mick at Knoebels.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm in.
Yeah, he loves it.
I have a bucket list. Mick Foley, I want him on my podcast. It'll never happen, but I would.
No, listen. Look. It's not as out of the realm of possibility as you think.
I need to keep getting up the Apple charts. Get me up the Apple charts so I look.
That's
right. Look at. I'm number 36, Mick. Come on.
Let's do it.
Come on, let's do it.
Well, I've had a lot of opportunities like of AEW talent, like where I reached out to AEW, and I'm actually in contacts with Impact. And it's not looking like it's going very well. But a lot of times they look and they're like, well, you only have 800 subscribers on YouTube. So I don't we rather just go with someone who has more of a following. So it kind of sucks. But like the more we grow, the more we can get opportunities to interview some of the people, like some of those bigger names. Like I would love to have Mick Foley on, but I want to be completely upfront honest too. Like if I had the opportunity to interview people from Impact, I'm not saying it in a negative connotation. It'd be cool to have those interviews, but I'm essentially using those interviews to grow so that I can bring more independent people in to say, here, I have a bigger audience. Here's who you should know about. Like
absolutely
when Barstool Wrestling has people on and they bring in the Leo Sparrows of the day, or they bring in like the independent people. I love when they had the independent corner, or Busted Open when they bring somebody in on the independent scene. Like I like when bigger platforms give independent people an opportunity to be heard or seen. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Well, so again, thanks for coming on today. It was as great as we all hoped it was going to be. It was a really fun interview.
I'm glad I hit the mark.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we're gonna wrap things up here. So if you want to just hang tight for a minute, and we'll I got some advice for you on getting some of those bigger names.
Okay.
So we'll be
anyone you ever see on mine, tell me, and I will
Got you.
personally send a DM, be like, these are good dudes, go on their stuff.
Awesome. Appreciate that.
So much. Perfect.
All right. Well, thanks for stopping by, Anthony, and we'll talk to you in a few minutes here.
Yep.
All right. So we want to thank, of course, Anthony Blackwell Jr. for joining us today. It was fantastic having him on the show. Please
Go follow him.
Yes, support the ABJ podcast, because he's not just doing a great job on his podcast. He's a really good dude.
He's killing it.
So of course we want to thank him for stopping by today, and we want to thank you, the listeners, for listening to the Opinion City podcast with myself and Parmesan Russell. And if you like what you just heard, we hope you follow us on social media at Opinion City Pod. And of course, tell your friends, family, colleagues, complete strangers, tell somebody at the grocery store, find your favorite dirtbag and tell them about Opinion City. Yep. And please like, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Be sure to check out our previous episodes and let us know your thoughts on those topics, as well as this week's topic. Check us out on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Opinion City Pod. Follow Anthony at A Blackwell Jr. on the socials. This has been a Mancast Network production, and we will see you next time.
This is also Ann here. You're listening to Opinion City Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.